Hey animators, so here's a couple of new features for bhGhost. The first one is probably the most useful. Got this little test here. This camera is following him obviously through the scene as he runs. And if I ghost this guy, normally you notice the ghost gets left behind. It's just in the scene. And if I ghost another one here, each of them, they show him where he was at that point in time. If I go into the perspective view, they give a nice clear view where he is and where he's going to and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes you want to track the actual arcs and spacing and so on in camera space. And it's very easy to set up. All you do is just go to mode here and just click on attach to camera. And it'll come up with a little list here of all the cameras that it finds in the scene. And in my case, I'm using shot cam. So I just click on that, which will close the UI, and it'll give me a little message here. Set camera to attach to ghosts as shot cam. And now if I ghost, it'll ghost in that camera space. So you see now they're not getting left behind. They're basically constrained to the camera. So it allows me to see that the spacing and the arc and so on in camera space rather than in world space. If I go back to my perspective camera now, you'll actually notice that the ghosts are actually following him. Well, they're following the camera really. Well, they said they're following him. And that's it. It's as simple as that. To turn it back off, you just uncheck it and you'll see it's attached to camera mode disabled. I would recommend doing a bus to all before and after creating it, because they attaching them and detaching them will probably end up with them being in a strange position. But it's very quick to do. Just bus to all, attach, shot cam, ghost, and now it's in camera space. I've found this really useful on a job I'm working on at the moment, where we're doing a lot of camera animation, or a lot of characters in with live action cameras, and just to kind of finesse the arcs and how they're traveling through the scene. It's proving really, really useful. So people find that handy. So the second new option that we've got is the option to reduce polygons when you're ghosting. This can make it a little bit easier to work with more complicated models and more dense meshes. They won't slow the scene down as much. To demonstrate, I've got this little rig here. This is a cool free rig I got, and I just did a little walk cycle test on it. And the geometry in this, if I select these objects, there are actually lots of separate parts, and there's actually lots of little small details like these little nuts and bolts and stuff. I wouldn't typically select all that stuff when I'm ghosting. I'd probably maybe just select the knee and the upper leg, and ghost that much. But just to kind of demonstrate, a kind of a worst case scenario where you've got like a one-piece mesh and it's all a lot of detail in it. It's going to run the ghost tool again with those selected. So now I'm going to ghost the whole mesh. It's going to take a little bit longer because it has to combine all that stuff first. So it's slowing my scene down a little bit, particularly because I'm screen capturing as well. And you'll notice I've got a lot of detail there. It's probably more than I need to really just see my spacing. So what I would use is this new option here, which is reduce mesh detail. I just enable that and run that again. And it took a little bit longer to create the ghost, but you'll notice now it hasn't slowed the scene down as much. It's lost a little bit of detail here around the fingers, but for the most part, it's pretty acceptable for seeing the spacing and that kind of stuff. And I can adjust how much detail it loses with this little. If I click here, set reduce detail amount, just click on that, it gives me this little slider. By default, it sets it to 50%. I can turn it down to like 20%, which would be pretty subtle, and ghost again. And now you see I've lost a lot less detail. It didn't take quite as long to make the ghost, but I probably don't want it that much, so I find that 50% is pretty good for most characters. I can go as far as 90%. I ghost again, probably mess the mesh up quite a bit. You'll notice in the fingers there I've lost a lot of detail, but if you just want to see the spacing of the knees or the body, this might be plenty. And again, it'll take us a little bit longer. It's under the hood. It's using Maya's native reduce poly tool. That's how it's decimating the mesh. So that might be acceptable. Or if you're detailing the fingers, obviously you want to maybe go back to around 50%, and now you got the fingers back again. So you can kind of experiment with it, and then once you've got the value that you like, you can just close that GUI, and then any new ghosts then that you create will be created with that reduced value. So as I say, it's kind of a mesh by mesh, case by case basis, really, where you just kind of have to play around and experiment with it. But it should help, hopefully, ghost stuff where the rig is kind of heavy and the geometry is detailed and it's just proving difficult to work with. Cheers.